As winter melted into spring, the landscape around Shimmering Lake transformed, and so did Swanling. With each passing day, subtle changes began to manifest. Swanling's once dull and mottled gray feathers slowly started to shed, revealing beneath them a layer of soft, downy white. At first, these changes were hardly noticeable, but as weeks turned into months, the transformation became more apparent. Swanling's once awkward squeak deepened into a more melodious tone, harmonizing with the symphony of the lake's inhabitants. Its movements, once clumsy and unrefined, began to take on a grace and elegance that mirrored the swans it had so admired. Swanling felt a new strength in its wings and a buoyancy in its swim. The other animals of the lake took notice. The ducks, who had once seen Swanling as one of their own, albeit a peculiar one, started to see a creature quite unlike any duck. The frogs, the butterflies, and even the fish observed Swanling's transformation with wonder and intrigue. Swanling itself felt an awakening within, a sense of emerging identity and purpose. There was a newfound confidence in its glide across the lake and a pride in its reflection in the water. The elder swan's words echoed in its heart, reminding Swanling that true beauty and belonging come from within. This phase of transformation was not just physical, it was a journey of self-discovery. Swanling began to understand that it was never just an odd duckling, but rather a different creature entirely. With each new feather and each graceful dive, Swanling was becoming who it was always meant to be. This realization brought a sense of peace and anticipation for what lay ahead, the final unveiling of its true self. The transformation that began in Swanling was not merely physical, it was a profound awakening of its true nature. As spring bloomed into summer, the once gray duckling had fully emerged as a magnificent swan. Its feathers were now a pristine white, reflecting the sun's rays with a luminous sheen. Its eyes, once filled with longing, now sparkled with confidence and a newfound sense of identity. Swanling, now gracefully gliding across Shimmering Lake, was almost unrecognizable to those who had known it as a duckling. The other animals watched in awe and admiration. The elder swan, observing the transformation, nodded in approval and pride. "You have discovered who you truly are," it said to Swanling. "Your journey was not just about changing feathers, but about embracing the beauty within you." Swanling's newfound elegance and poise were not the only changes. It found its voice, a melodious honk that resonated across the lake, calling to its fellow swans. The swans, who had once been distant figures of admiration, now welcomed Swanling as one of their own. Together, they soared and danced in the skies, a ballet of unity and grace. This transformation brought Swanling a sense of peace and fulfillment. No longer did it feel like an outcast or yearn for acceptance. In its heart, Swanling knew it had always been a swan, and the journey through loneliness and discovery was a necessary path to realizing its true essence. The Swanling of Shimmering Lake had become a symbol of hope and inspiration to all in the village. Its story was a testament to the power of self-acceptance and the beauty of finding one's place in the world. The once uncertain waters of the lake now mirrored a creature of elegance, a swan that had risen from the shadows of doubt to the light of self-discovery. In the heart of Shimmering Lake, the newly transformed Swanling soared with the swans, its heart alight with joy and belonging. The village by the lake, once accustomed to the odd little duckling, now marveled at the elegant swan that Swanling had become. Children and adults alike would gather by the lake, hoping to catch a glimpse of its graceful flights and serene glides across the water. Swanling's transformation became a cherished story within the village, symbolizing hope in the beauty of embracing one's true self. The tale of the awkward duckling that became a majestic swan inspired many, teaching them that true beauty and strength lie within and that everyone can find their own way in the world. The swans, who had embraced Swanling as one of their own, taught it the ways of their kind, from the intricate dances on the water to the soaring flights that graced the skies. Swanling, with each day, grew more confident and radiant, its life a dance of joy and harmony with nature. As the seasons changed, Swanling became a guardian of Shimmering Lake, a symbol of transformation and resilience. It would often be seen leading the flock, its wings strong and its call resonant. The other animals of the lake, who once saw Swanling with curiosity, now looked up to it with respect and admiration. Swanling's journey, from a lonely duckling to a graceful swan, remained a tale told for generations, a reminder that everyone has a unique path, and within each lies the potential for greatness. In the calm waters of Shimmering Lake, Under the watchful eyes of the village, Swanling found not just its place in the world, but also a way to inspire and uplift those around it, proving that every end is just a new beginning. In the picturesque village beside Shimmering Lake, a sense of excitement filled the air each spring as new life blossomed. Among the inhabitants of the lake were a family of ducks, known for their grace and beauty. That spring, the family welcomed a brood of ducklings, each one a fluffy bundle of joy, except for one. The last duckling to emerge was different, its feathers a dull, ashen gray, its eyes a deep, thoughtful hue. The villagers named this unusual duckling Swanling, noting its distinct appearance that set it apart from its siblings. From the very beginning, Swanling felt out of place. Unlike the other ducklings, who frolicked and played, Swanling struggled to fit in. Its waddle was awkward, its quack more of a squeak. The other animals at Shimmering Lake often cast curious glances and whispered among themselves, making Swanling feel more conspicuous and isolated. Despite its differences, Swanling possessed a resilient spirit. It found solace in the beauty of the lake and the meadows, often wandering away from its family to explore the wonders of nature. Swanling's curious eyes would light up at the sight of colorful wildflowers and its heart would soar with the birds' songs. Even in those early days, there was a sense of destiny about Swanling. It was as if the lake and the surrounding nature whispered secrets to it, secrets of a journey yet to come, a journey that would lead Swanling to discover a world beyond the reeds of Shimmering Lake and to embrace the uniqueness within. As Swanling grew, its differences from the other ducklings became more pronounced. While its siblings' feathers turned into a glossy sheen, Swanling's remained a muted gray. Its attempts to join in the games often ended in awkwardness, leading to gentle but noticeable laughter from its peers. This sense of not belonging led Swanling to spend more time alone, exploring the fringes of Shimmering Lake. In these solitary wanderings, Swanling discovered a world that seemed to accept it without question. The frogs by the marsh didn't care about its feathers, they were more interested in its friendly quack. The butterflies didn't mind its awkward waddle, they fluttered around it as if dancing to a silent tune. In the company of these creatures, Swanling felt a sense of peace and belonging. During these explorations, Swanling also began to notice the beauty of the world around it, the way the water rippled in the breeze, the patterns of light and shadow in the forest, and the myriad of colors at sunset. It was as if nature itself was revealing its secrets, showing Swanling that beauty came in many forms. These moments of solitude and discovery became Swanling's refuge. They were times when it could just be itself, without the weight of expectations or comparisons. In the stillness of nature, Swanling found not only acceptance but also a growing sense of self. Unbeknownst to Swanling, these experiences were shaping it for a transformation that would unveil its true essence and destiny. As the seasons changed and the warm hues of autumn descended upon Shimmering Lake, a remarkable event took place. A flock of majestic swans, resplendent with their snowy feathers and elegant postures, arrived at the lake. Their arrival was a spectacle that captivated all, including Swanling, who watched from afar with wide, wistful eyes. The swans glided across the lake with a grace that seemed almost otherworldly. Their serene beauty and the gentle ripples they left in the water drew admiring glances from all the lake's inhabitants. Swanling, in its gray plumage, felt an even deeper sense of contrast and longing. Yet, there was an inexplicable pull towards these ethereal creatures, a stir of kinship in its heart. As the days passed, Swanling found itself drawn to the swans, observing them from a distance, mesmerized by their movements and the harmonious way they interacted with each other. Their calls were like melodies, echoing across the lake, stirring something profound within Swanling. This feeling was different from anything it had experienced before, a mix of awe, envy, and a deep, unspoken connection. One twilight, as Swanling watched the swans under the glow of the setting sun, an elderly swan broke away from the flock and approached Swanling. This swan, with wise, knowing eyes, looked at Swanling thoughtfully. "Why do you watch us from afar, young one?" the elder swan asked in a gentle, melodious voice. Swanling, taken aback by the swan's approach and its kind inquiry, stumbled over its words. I admire your beauty and grace. You are so different from me, yet something within me feels drawn to you," Swanling confessed. The elder swan regarded Swanling with a soft gaze. "Difference is but a surface notion, young one. The water that reflects our forms is the same that nourishes us all. You, too, belong to the lake, as do we all, the swan said, imparting a wisdom that resonated with Swanling's soul. That encounter marked a turning point for Swanling. It began to see itself and the world around it through a new lens. The elder swan's words lingered in its mind, sowing seeds of hope and self-acceptance. Unbeknownst to Swanling, this was the beginning of a journey of transformation, one that would lead it to discover its true identity and the beauty that lay within.